Hello, my name is Daniel Roe, and it's a pleasure to be with you this evening talking about building a better hammer, story of Nuxt 4. My name is Daniel, as I said. I'm a full-time open source maintainer. So I lead the core team building Nuxt, and I'm also involved in a few other open source projects as well, from Elk to Nitro to Fontaine, Unifont, Magic Regex, and some others too. You can check out PageSpeed or First Commit if you are particularly interested. There's some sites that are a bit fun. And do check out my website, roe.dev. If you want to get in contact, if you have any questions about anything I've said this evening, that's a great place to do it. Obviously, my email address is here as well. You can drop me an email, but you can also find my Discord handle, my GitHub account, my Blue Sky profile, my I suppose my LinkedIn profile. Well, whatever is useful, grab it. I'd love to help if there's something I can do. So drop me a message. And this is my cat, Barley. Barley is very sweet. I love her a great deal. She lives with me and my family in Edinburgh, in the UK. And right now she's actually not very well, so my heart is particularly tender towards her. I do spare a thought for her. There she is, cuddling up to me. She always has time and space for cuddles. Well, I'm talking tonight about Nuxt, and if you haven't come across it before, Nuxt is a progressive framework built on Vue. And when I say progressive, I mean it should have best practices built in from the start. So you should be able to get up and going without much effort. It should be very simple and straightforward to start. Developer experience matters a lot. But it should go with you every step of the way towards building an enterprise app, a complex site, whatever you might need to build with it. So it prides itself on being very customizable. You should be able to make it your own, to change the options, to change the defaults if they don't suit you and your project. And that means that whether you're just using the defaults or whether you need to build something much more complex, Nuxt needs to be there for you. It was built by two brothers, Sebastian and Alexander Chopin, with the original authors of Nuxt. We have a much bigger team now. It was the first commit was in October 2016. I think it was just one day after Next.js was released, which is a similar framework for React. And you can see the first couple of versions went fairly quickly. There was quite a gap between version 2 and version 3 of Nuxt. That was quite a while of effort. We actually built the framework from scratch. We rebuilt it in that time. And we're aiming to have version 4 released this year. It's pretty exciting. We've spent a lot of time trying to make sure we've got that right. And I'm talking a little bit tonight about what we've tried to do to make Nuxt a better hammer. So some metrics. We have some stars on GitHub, which is always very gratifying. It's always nice when someone stars it. And we have some downloads, I think nearly 36 million downloads. And we have seen quite a lot of adoption move from Nuxt 2 to Nuxt 3, which is really nice to see. A lot of new projects getting started with Nuxt 3, more than people migrating from 2 to 3. Probably projects that have been going for a while and might not need to migrate. But what's more significant than those numbers are the number of people who are involved in making Nuxt possible. It's a community project, so we are not driven by a massive corporation. We have a team of contributors who contribute in their free time because they love it. And some of us are sponsored full-time, but that's not the main thing that drives the community. We have over 840 contributors, which is phenomenal. I'm really privileged to know many of them and to have met up with them face to face. It's almost my greatest pleasure when I get a chance to go to a conference or a meetup and actually see the people who have contributed to and are contributing to the framework. So thank you very much. If you're in the audience tonight, I wish I could shake your hand and say thank you. And very much the aim for Nuxt is that it should be this progressive framework and work for all of those people, all of the people who contribute to it, and all of the many different use cases we have, whether that's a single person building a hobby project, or an agency building sites for their clients, or an enterprise needing features that maybe nobody else needs at all. Now, I don't know if you know the expression, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And in general, that is very wise. What the point it's trying to make is that sometimes your tools can change how you look at the world. The things that you are able to do mean that you solve problems which might actually be better suited to a different tool with the tool that you happen to have. That's a bit of a cautionary tale, because we want to choose the right tool for the job in every case. But in a sense, paradoxically, I'm trying to make Nuxt the right tool for the job in more and more cases. And there are a number of reasons for this. And the first is to reduce cognitive load. I think you can see the benefit of this in lots and lots of different cases, but most notably, look at the example of Tailwind CSS. Tailwind is adopted by many companies and individuals, including many who originally dismissed it. And the reason I think Tailwind is successful isn't just the technology behind it or the approach to atomic CSS. It's the fact that it is the power of convention. If you take someone who knows how to use a Tailwind project and drop them into another Tailwind project, they can get going pretty much immediately. They don't need much introduction to the project or the code or even the design system. They probably know how it works just from looking at the markup. That's a phenomenal advantage when you're talking about productivity. And so when we're aiming with Nuxt to make Nuxt suitable for many different use cases, one of the immediate benefits is the power of convention. So you can build a client-only app, so there's no server rendering at all with Nuxt. Why would you do that? Sometimes people ask why, as though maybe there's no need if you're not building with SSR, with server rendering. Hello, can come over here and pet it. And one of the answers is, apart from all the other features that you might benefit from with Nuxt, one of the answers is the power of convention, because how things are organized, how they work, still the same. And you don't have to reinvent things every time you start a new project or join a new team. So it's a pretty big advantage, I think. The power of convention that unlocks means that you're able to be more productive sooner. And faster. And hopefully you don't need to take as much time switching gears, which always, I find, is one of the biggest obstacles. That kind of friction when getting started with a new project means you'll be slower at moving to that MVP or onboarding with a new team. But the one thing it's not is taking over the world. So I really do think it's important to know the right tool for the job. And it's not just about becoming a partisan of a particular framework, a diehard fan who will use it in any and every situation. That's not why I want to make Nuxt a better tool for using in more situations. It's still great if people use other things. Don't worry about that at all. Now, in looking forward to Nuxt 4 and this release, it's a very significant one for us. And one of the reasons it's significant is it's the first chance for us to learn from our mistakes, from the things we got wrong in releasing Nuxt 3 in the beginning. Now, I think one of the things you would almost immediately see in looking at the timeline for the release of Nuxt 3 was our time. The amount of time we took was too long. It left the ecosystem in a bit of a lurch. I mean, on the other hand, there were reasons for it, and good reasons, ones that we were right to deal with, things like the release of Vite, the moving to a bundler agnostic infrastructure, and more. But it still was a very long time. There's some lessons I think we learned from it. So one is that both scope and time are not mutable. So if you're trying to deliver a project, then you can change the scope of the project and stick to the original estimate for time. Or you can change the deadline and leave the scope unchanged, but you can't change both of them. And this is a really important lesson. It's one of the things that when I stepped up as the team lead for Nuxt, one of the things I wanted to make sure we did right, and that was adhere to a much more reliable release cadence. So we aim for a release every week or so for a patch, a release every month or so for a minor or feature release, and a release every year or so for a major release. In other words, we won't just aim to hit a scope. We're actually going to be bound much more by time. And that means people can rely on the release of bug fixes if something was troubling them. And it means that hopefully we'll never get a recurrence of the really, really long gap between 2 and 3 that we had before. We also learned about the importance of ecosystem. So in the move from 2 to 3, one of the reasons it was so painful was because everything changed. Not just Vue 2 to 3, which was a breaking change in and of itself, or Nuxt, but then all the modules and the packages that were reliant on Nuxt. Vuetify had to move. The integrations for robots.txt or sitemaps or different modules and providers. And that means that it's really important for us to think about how we support the ecosystem when we release new major versions. We also, in Nuxt 2, relied a lot on the internal structure of Nuxt, and so modules hooked into that. And immediately, when we had a new version of Nuxt that was rebuilt, without those internals, things broke. And as we adapted, because we changed a lot along the way, we found that things didn't entirely run smoothly. We were repairing a moving car effectively. We couldn't stop it. We had release candidates out. We needed to change things. And it meant that people experienced a lot of brokenness. That was very hard work for people in the community who are keeping up with Nuxt and adopting it early on. So here are a few things that we've done to try and fix things and make things better for the future. So one of the technologies we use is Hookable, and it allows hooking into every part of Nuxt and Nitro. So lifecycle stages, key actions, and more. So we use it internally at the build side of things, but also at runtime, and not just on the Nuxt side, but also on the Nitro side. We've worked to integrate it with new features like console create task, which is present in Chromium-based browsers and allows tracking of asynchronous tasks more straightforwardly and logging them correctly with the right stack traces. We have different kinds of task runners for different kinds of jobs. And we even have debugging mode, so you can look and see in your DevTools what hooks are being called, what they're being called with, what arguments they're being called with, and how many things are listening to them, and like other hooks are being registered. We've also sought as much as possible to make our core composables and utilities swappable. So the bundler, whether you use Vite, Webpack, or RSPack, is a choice that's up to you. It's not dictated by Nuxt. Modules like the SEO tag module, or head module, the pages module, which integrates Vue router, the component auto imports module, or the utility function auto imports module, those are all hot swappable and configurable. You can disable them completely if you need to. And we have a layer architecture, which allows you to assemble multiple Nuxt projects into a final finished one. So you can more easily have a modular architecture in terms of your own code. And not to reuse the word, but we also have modules, that separate integrations built on top of Nuxt that allow adding features, integrating with third-party providers, and adding developer experience. We have lots of them. They're distributable, so not only can you include them in your own project or in an internal NPM package, but you can actually publicly distribute them to have other people use them for you. We provide tooling like Nuxt Module Builder, which allows you to build them, and utilities as well in Nuxt Kit that allows an SDK for these modules. You can query some data about them if you're interested. And we have a public modules dataset, Nuxt modules repository on GitHub, which allows lots of fun integrations, such as installing modules from the CLI or accessing information on what Nuxt modules are available in the Nuxt DevTools. And the Nuxt SDK that I mentioned, Nuxt Kit, allows people building integrations with these modules that aren't reliant on Nuxt internals and will keep on working even as we release new major versions of Nuxt itself. So we have over 265 modules, over 200 maintainers, and 1,600 contributors. It's amazing to see, really. And I would very much and sincerely say that Nuxt is very much made what it is, not just by the core framework, but by all of the people who build modules and integrations for Nuxt. That is one of the things that makes Nuxt unique and one of the reasons to use it. One of the other key things that we believe in very much at our core level on the Nuxt team is that we believe in user choice. There are different ways of building a framework. So you can build a great framework by not giving choice to users and just making what you choose as the framework authors work flawlessly. And there are frameworks that choose to do that. But I think you can have both. And so we prioritize the choice of users, whether that's where they deploy their projects, how they test them, what KV store they use, what database they use, what image provider they use or font provider. We maintain over 90 different providers across the different Nuxt integrations, actually probably more since I drew this list up. And it's a very key core value, but it does require the community to be involved because it's not like I can use all of these providers every day. We all need to be using different providers and actually contributing back to Nuxt. And that's part of what makes this user choice thing so important for me personally. We want to keep on growing as well. So Nuxt dates back to 2016, which is quite a long time in JavaScript years. But we want to be continuing to innovate as well as maintaining some stability for the project, because there are some big sites and some big people who are building on top of Nuxt, and we want them to have a good experience and be able to trust the framework and the team. So the release schedule I mentioned is a big piece of enabling people to trust Nuxt. We also have the Nuxt ecosystem CI, which follows the example of Vue's ecosystem CI and tests future releases of Nuxt against a range of different projects, from Nuxt modules to core Next integrations to Nuxt sites and apps. And that is a really helpful way for us to detect regressions before new releases of Nuxt are put out there. And that means that we can innovate because we are able to test. So we were able to release server components experimentally, manifests and build caching. The Vue Transitions API, we were one of the first, I think the first framework to release a Vue Transitions API integration. We have 0 JavaScript and 0 Vue runtime modes. We support inline root rules, and coming soon, we'll support multi-app support with multiple Nuxt apps integrated into a single one. We're working on Nuxt test utils to enable people to test their projects and make sure that there aren't any problems in their own code. And we're collaborating with Ecosystem CI. We also have 2 new namespaces, Future and Features namespaces, which means we can ship features experimentally and then gradually move them into the Future and then eventually the Features namespaces. So people can opt in early, test, experiment, give feedback, and then when we're confident things are stable, we can actually ship them. I'm also building a downstream testing action so people with private code bases can actually test their code early against new releases of Nuxt. If you want to be part of any of that, if you have or maintain an open source Nuxt module or something like that, and you have tests for it, I would welcome a pull request to add that to the Nuxt test suite, because it's really helpful for me to know that when I release something new, all that the focus and time and thought we've put into it, it works and doesn't break people's use cases. So you never know exactly what people are doing with a framework. We also work with Web Platform DX to adhere to baseline guidelines. So we make sure that we support features that are, we only require features that are widely available. But on the other hand, we're able to innovate by having experimental support for things that are just coming in with limited availability or just newly available. Things like built-in cross-platform WebSocket support, some great stuff from Puya there. We're really excited about some WebAssembly possibilities and are working with some innovative work there. And obviously, we want to make sure that new JavaScript runtimes continue to be good places for running Nuxt apps. We test things and get metrics from Nuxt Telemetry, which is an opt-in telemetry module. Well, it is installed by default, but you have to opt in to use it. Please do, because it's really helpful for us to know how people are using their Nuxt projects and what features they're using. We want to know what is the best use of our time and what makes the difference to people. And we can also tell what is making a difference from a performance point of view by looking at data from sites on the HTTP archive and actually seeing, does Nuxt image make a difference in terms of people's site loads, for example? Well, I want to talk about Nuxt 4. I know I've made that promise. And first, I want to say Nuxt 4 is not about hype. Well, I mentioned we have this release schedule that has the patch release, the minor release, the major release. 4 is major release. And the thing it's for is breaking changes. We ship features in minor releases. So 3.17 coming out, might even be out at the time of this meetup, will have all the features we've built between now and the last minor release. We're not holding them back. The thing that Nuxt 4 is for thoughtful breaking changes. We want to figure out the changes we have to make Nuxt more performant going forward with a minimum of user inconvenience. But what it is not about is shipping big earth-shattering changes. We try and ship the earth-shattering changes month by month. We also want Nuxt 4 to be about opting in and out of features. So you shouldn't have to use Nuxt, every feature of Nuxt 4. You should be able to opt back into previous behavior of Nuxt, and that should still continue to work for you. In fact, it's possible to try out Nuxt for the Nuxt 4 breaking changes today, at least the ones that are in Nuxt, Nitro coming soon. And we want to spend a lot of time focusing on that migration experience, so it's a good experience for users. If we get this right for Nuxt 4, we'll be very well positioned to make sure Nuxt is a better hammer long into the future, 5 and 6 and 7 and more. Some of the changes we made, we have a new directory structure. We opt into more performant defaults, such as shallow reactive payloads or non-reactive runtime configuration or using the native browser cache. And we're working on implementing best practices like using absolute paths, which require fewer assumptions for users, or deprecating a pending Boolean in favor of a status one. If you are interested at all in helping with Nuxt, shaping the development of it, we'd love that. We are working to make it more intuitive for users. We've shipped just recently a new website, and we're keeping on working on improving it. So Anthony, for example, is working on some educational resources, tutorials to help people learn Nuxt, and we're working on improving our TypeScript integration with our docs as well. Come on Discord. We have an open Discord server, which is a great place to ask questions and help other people. And GitHub is great if you have bugs or issues you can't figure out. And check out nuxters.nuxt.com. You can see your own score, and you can unlock a badge on the Discord server if you want. And I should say, I would be really happy if anyone would like to book 10 minutes of 10-minute call. I'd be really happy to chat about anything. So if you want to get involved in open source, whether that's Nuxt or not, maybe particularly if you feel like you're not sure if you'd be welcome or you're not sure your background is quite the same as anyone else in the project, I'd love to chat and tell you would be very welcome or help in any other way I can. So yes, if you're interested and want to find out any more, check out nuxt.com or follow us on Blue Sky or Mastodon. And yes, you can join the Discord with chat.nuxt.com. But thank you very much for having me tonight. It's been a real pleasure to be here virtually and say a few things about what we're planning with Nuxt 4 and Nuxt going forward.